Developing news this evening, federal prosecutors announcing charges in a massive fraud scheme.
The U.S. Attorney's Office in Boston says the suspect stole the identities from victims across the country and then used them to defraud U.S. taxpayers out of more than $1 million. Federal officials holding a press conference in Boston Tuesday morning about the alleged scheme to steal Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, or SNAP, and pandemic unemployment benefits. U.S. Attorney Leah Foley says it involved 4 people who allegedly stole the identities of more than 100 victims, including 6 children, and then used them to illegally obtain government benefits.
Spending tens of thousands of taxpayer dollars to purchase inventory for a restaurant in Massachusetts owned by the lead defendant, Raul Fernandez Vicioso, a naturalized citizen from the Dominican Republic. Fernandez Vicioso and his co-defendants, 2 of whom do not have legal immigration status and 1 is a green card holder, used the stolen EBT cards to purchase large quantities of expensive bulk food items.
Prosecutors say the men stole more than $1 million from U.S. taxpayers, selling menu items at El Primo restaurant in Leominster at a complete profit, then wiring that money to Venezuela and the Dominican Republic. The scheme unraveled when Rhode Island officials noticed 117 SNAP applications, all claiming to live in just 2 apartments in Providence.
We owe this attention to the hardworking taxpayers who expect government officials to stop massive fraud schemes and to hold those fraudsters accountable. It is not particularly hard to identify these scams, but if you don't even care to look or prosecute those involved, essentially allowing criminals to steal vast amounts of taxpayer money with impunity, the scams will continue to proliferate unabated.
This latest announcement coming on the heels of a recent report from the Massachusetts state auditor outlining $12 million of taxpayer money fraud just within the state. The largest amount, more than $4 million, was allegedly stolen from SNAP, with an additional $1.3 million taken from Mass Health. In an effort to reduce fraud and make sure benefits go to those in need, the federal government is asking states to share SNAP data. But Massachusetts Governor Maura Healey and several other Democratic governors have refused, saying there are already safeguards in place.